German and Bahraini experts to exchange views regarding optimal waste management techniques, which have indeed advanced significantly in the last 5 years, propelled forward by the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda. Thank you very much for joining us. To start off today, I would like to introduce our colleague, Dr. Dalia Samra-Rother, who is a delegate for the German Industry and Commerce at the Saudi Arabia, she's the delegate for German Industry and Commerce for Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Yemen. Dr. Dalia, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omar. Thank you very much to Derasat that we'll be able to join today. I also like to introduce my colleague Shirin Faouza. She's heading our German desk in Dammam and also responsible for Bahrain. We are the official representation of the German industry, and we are supporting very much the placement of German technology in the respective countries. We've seen there's a huge change in Bahrain. The Kingdom of Bahrain has efforts of commitment to deliver sustainable energy. And this is partly shown in the Economic Vision 2030. But at the same time, we also see with the Kingdom's National Waste Management Strategy, sustainable measures to reduce greenhouse effects have been very much addressed, as due to large infrastructure projects, there's a solid waste production of 1.7 million per year. And we are very happy as Gesano if we can support the trend to reduce recycle as well as reduce greenhouse effects with German innovative technology. And therefore, we are even more happy that we were able to showcase two important German speakers, Dr. Abdallah Nasur from the University of Rostock today, and engineer Katharina Reh from Fraunhofer, to also showcase a bit what the newest German developments on that side. Yeah, together with Shirin, I'd like to thank you very much, and we are really looking forward to an interesting discussion in today's webinar. And I'm passing back to Dr. Omar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dalia. So today's agenda, just to give you a brief overview, is we're going to be having a presentation from each of our three distinguished speakers, and each of them will be presenting for approximately 10 minutes. And then after that, at approximately 30 or 35 minutes past 11 Bahrain time or 10:35 Central European time, we'll be having a moderated discussion. And at that point, we will happily welcome any questions and interventions. There are two ways to interact with the speakers. The first is through the chat box, and the second is through the Q&A section, and we'll be happy to hear your comments and thoughts. And we'll also offer the speakers before the end of the session an opportunity to reflect upon the comments and questions that have been posed. I would like to start now with our first speaker, who, as Dr. Dalia mentioned, is Dr. Abdallah Nasur, who is an associate professor at the Professorship of Waste and Resource Management at the University of Rostock, and he's the founder of Enviro GmbH. Dr. Abdallah, please, the floor is yours. So you'll be sharing a presentation.
You see my presentation?
Yes, everything is clear. Thank you.
Thanks. So, thank you very much for the invitation to this workshop. So really, I work in waste management between Germany and the MENA region since more 20 years. I know the MENA region very well, but really until now, I don't was in work in Bahrain, and I don't visit Bahrain. I hope we can find way for cooperation with Bahrain. So I will tell you some words about how we think it's really about waste management and circular economy. That's my words. That's really what I like to speak about it. Waste management is more politic responsibility and organization than technique. It's not enough to think about the technology. We should think about the politic, the responsibility, and the organization. That's very important. And the politic must come to the decision for the sustainable waste management or circular economy. So the It's mean the waste management really systems, yeah, we need regulation. Believe me, without regulation, we cannot establish waste management. So we need it, yeah. And very important is the financing. It's mean waste management costs money. Who should pay? I will show today some words about it. Then monitoring, yeah, we should do the monitoring for waste management. And the administration, who would be responsible? Really, it's mean the municipality should play a very big role. Then the technical system, then the user, informal sector play a big roles, and the education and qualification. It's mean if we think about waste management, the future, we should integrate all this system. So financing of waste management in Germany. So I know that in the MENA region, we don't speak about it. It's mean we speak only about how can be the solution, the technical solution. So in Germany, really, if we think about waste management, we think about financing. Who should pay? Yeah, the turnover about waste management in Germany is about 70 billion euro. It's a big money. It's mean available for waste management. Who pay? The citizen pay about 5 billion euro. Each person in Germany pay per year about 50 euro for waste management. Then we have the extended producer responsibility. If we speak about circular economy, we should think about extended producer responsibility. This system only for the packaging, yeah, so cover about 1 billion euro from the waste management. Then we have another extended producer responsibility for electro waste, tire waste, and so on. And the commercial and industry pay in the system. It's mean the financing system is organized in Germany. So this picture is from our capital, Berlin. So BSR Berlin is a municipal company. This company has more than 5,400 employees, qualified person for waste management. Really, Berlin don't solve the waste management only with incineration or with technique. The easiest way to separate the waste, we have more than 500,000 waste bins in Berlin to separate the waste. That's some figures from another city in Germany, in Bremen. Yeah, that's really, it means waste fractions. We have residual waste, we have paper. The city separate about 37,000 ton paper. And this material, this paper is recycled by the local industry. Garden waste, kitchen waste, and so on. It's mean only the residual waste is burned, it's mean, and to produce energy. So some figures about waste management in Germany. Now we have in Germany really about 16,000 waste treatment plants. So more than 7,000 plants for sorting and processing. About more than 2,500 plants for biological treatment. And we have about 830 plants for thermal waste recycling. It's mean thermal is very important, but only about 70 waste incineration plant. Yeah, we have 35 fuel power plant. Cement industry is very important, and 35 cement plants. It's mean use the waste as energy sources and so on. And now Germany has more than 10,000 municipal and private companies. Municipal and private companies. And the employees is about really 267,000 employees, and the turnover about 70 billion euro. The role of waste to energy is very important. Now in Germany, we incinerate about until 30 years separation at source. We separate, we incinerate about 20 million ton in 69 incineration plant. But the caloric value here is 8,000 kilojoule a kilogram. In another plant, we separate the organic and we incinerate the high caloric fraction with mere caloric fraction about 1,000 megajoule per kilogram. So, and we have more than 31 hazardous waste incineration plant. It's very important. It's me to think about such system to incinerate the hazardous waste. And we have the cement industry. So that's 70% of the energy in the cement industry is really from the waste. So, and again, to the waste incineration. If we think about waste incineration in the MENA region, please don't think only about the electricity. Using the heating is very important. More than 60% from the waste to energy is heating if we think about incineration. So it means that's very important to think not only about the electricity, to think about how can we use the heat energy. That's really concept what we think now about it in the for the MENA region. That's BHT. This is in our department. We think really to integrate waste incineration plant with solar concentrated solar power, to produce energy, and the heat we can produce, we can use for water desalination. Why not? We can think about such concept. It's very important. I think such concepts are important for the region. Again, for the financing, we really technical. We are ready. We have the technique for the waste incineration and waste treatment. But who should pay the money? So that's a really model. What we think about it. Each city in the MENA region can pay for the waste 5 to 20 euro per ton. So we have packaging in our residual waste. Why? It means the ABR can pay something in the system. I estimated it, maybe 50 euro per ton for the packaging. And the electricity, really international price, for energy from waste to energy plant, should be 8 to 10 euro cent per kilowatt hour. And yes, the use of the heat can be 6 euro per ton. And in the future, in the near future, we can think about CO2 certificate. Really, we have the possibility to implement such solution. We think about business, about waste management in the MENA region. Really, we need it. We need this business. That's my opinion. The possibility for business is waste to energy, electricity from landfill gas. We have a lot of landfills. Why not to use, it means the landfill gas, but really we need for it regulation, to sell the electricity. So another business opportunity in waste management, use the landfill areas for solar energy. Why not? It means that's possible. Refuse-derived fuel, as alternative fuel in the cement industry. Believe me, the cement industry is ready, and we should find way to cooperate with the municipality. Incineration for big cities, it must. Each big cities in the MENA region need to think about incineration. And we need the incineration for medical and hazardous waste. We need it. And biogas for industrial purposes. Recycling, industry is in the region, I can tell you, only sustainable with extended producer responsibility. Please let us discuss about it. And composting, each city with more than 100,000 inhabitants need to think about composting plant for green and clean organic city. How we think really for the MENA region, that's my opinion. If we think today for waste management in the MENA region, we need concept. I can tell you after 30 years experience in Germany, still now we have more than 70 incineration plants. It means we cannot separate all the waste. That's my opinion. Today for big cities in the MENA region, we can say we need for 50% of the waste incineration, but heat should be used, yeah, and the another 50% really for avoidance, separation at source, recyclable, and so on. Again, target of incineration is really the treatment of the waste and then use the energy. I can tell you, energy from waste is expensive. And if we calculate it, the cost per kilowatt hour from waste to energy, yeah, can be 18 to 20 cent per kilowatt hour. So that's really my project. I can offer you, we do this project with 3 universities from Germany, Hamburg, Rostock, and Dresden. And we have 4 universities in the MENA region, Ain Shams University in Egypt, just in Jordan, Qadi Ayyad in Morocco, and Algeria. I can offer you for your university to cooperate with us in this project. And we do here online really lecture for the student. I hope we can find a way to cooperate in this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdallah. I remind you that if you have any questions or comments, please put them forwards and we'll happily consider them in the second half. Now we will move on to our second speaker, Dr. Hanan Al-Buflasa, who is a dear friend of Dirasat and has been working with us on many projects. She's the Assistant Professor of Renewable Energy and also the Head of the Department of Physics at the University of Bahrain. Dr. Hanan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ammar, and thank you very much, Dr. Abdallah. I have planned my presentation to go one direction, but I believe after your presentation, I will a little bit divert my presentation. However, I will use the same slides, but definitely I will put and hopefully being able to give you an overview of what's going on and what we think should be a good solution for Bahrain. When we talk about the economic, of course, we know in general, although there is now a progress in terms of renewable energy and how much we can push in renewable energy and how cheap is the renewable energy compared to the conventional fuel, but one which is very important and pushes waste to energy to the front of all the renewable energies is the environmental impact. So it is not just an economic aspect, it's an environmental solution that we need to go there because I think carrying the conventional way of dealing with waste is not the way to go, and it's not definitely the sustainable method that we have to carry on. If you allow me, I will be sharing my presentation at the moment.
You should have access.
Yes. I believe you can see my presentation. I'm going full screen at the moment.
Yeah, yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, so it's just, yeah, perfect. This is actually, I was thinking of what shall I put, what picture I should actually search and put as the background of the beginning of my presentation. And this picture I took myself when I was visiting the landfill site in Bahrain. And of course, as you can see, oh my, wow, this is a beautiful picture with the nice blue sky and the birds is all over the place. And just go beyond that, as you go down, you can see the waste. This is one of the sites, of course, this is the newest site in Bahrain. Bahrain has different sites through the ages, the time. And this is the newest site, which is located in Askar. You will be surprised that so many people, when I ask the questions of, do you know where actually the waste goes in Bahrain, they would be like, we're not sure really where they take the waste to. Although the country is so small, but I believe we need to increase people engagement and people understanding of what happens to their waste when they actually end up in a bin inside their houses and where it will reach in like a few hours from collection. So just to give you a brief about the waste management currently in Bahrain, and if you are living in Bahrain, you definitely know that, but the way what we have done, I will go a little bit further back to the history. Bahrain used to have a completely different way of waste management compared to today. It was more centralized, it was governmentally operated system, and we used to have a separate bare house where the vehicles which comes and collect the waste from individual houses in Bahrain. After privatization, this has completely changed, and now we have a centralized waste collection, which is separated according to a system somehow is happening. That's number of houses or neighborhood will have a number of these general waste collection areas. So that has a little bit affected in terms of how we can encourage people of actually going and reducing waste, because if you have a centralized waste collection point, definitely you cannot measure what is the amount of waste is coming from one single house and compare this to the household size or activities that is happening, and which has sort of affected our results or our research when we go and analyze waste production in Bahrain, because as I said, what we get here is a collective amount of waste which is collected from different locations rather than from separate houses, and hence we don't have a segregation at the house at the source. So the segregation is not happening unless if people are willing to do segregation, and this by going to a segregation stations which is separate, which are far, and not necessarily you will have it in different locations, and they will go and separate, for example, glass, paper, plastic in there. But in general, when we talk about the household waste or the domestic waste, it goes to the general collection. And once it actually has been collected, it will be taken by the vehicles. And this is another thing. When we talk about the carbon emission of the greenhouse gases emission of the waste, we usually take it as a production. We have to think about it also as a transportation, because as we're transporting waste from different locations, and you have to think about Bahrain as a very small country. So these small vehicles or large vehicles, depends on the size, they have to go into neighborhoods which could be different in size, and that will have impact by itself on the carbon emission. And we have to do it every day. So in certain countries, for example, I'm not going to talk about Germany as I have no idea about Germany, but I know, for example, in the UK, I've been there for 6 years and I was living in a house, and the collection usually will happen once a week. And that is okay, fine, because they don't produce a lot of waste, 1, 2, plus they have a good climate and weather, and the waste will not go all the chemical reaction will start in an hour, which is completely different case here in Bahrain, and the waste has to be collected in a daily basis in this matter. So once it is collected, of course, it goes to the main site, which is the Askar landfill, and that is located sort of, we say south of the country, but it's not really the south, it is the middle of the country. The south is still far away from the Askar landfill, and it is actually it was exceeded the operational capacity in 2016, and then they have extended that, and they have provided more areas to be used for the landfill. I'm not sure what is happening at the moment, as the data I have is more is based on the 2016. The width and the depth of, say, they will use around 10 to 15 meters depth of the areas that is open for the waste. And of course, we are considered Bahrain as one of the highest producers and generators of waste in the world. And while they consider us, and sometimes the number changes, we are actually the highest on the top of the list, unfortunately, of the waste produced per capita per day in the GCC. Although we are a very small country, but we have production quite high waste, which could have social effects or more to do with the lifestyle in Bahrain compared to the GCC. All the non-hazardous waste, of course, will be collected in the Askar landfill. We have another landfill, which is called Hafira landfill, and this is for the hazardous waste, which is mainly under the operation of the Environmental Supreme Council. We have done research here at the University of Bahrain trying to know what is the energy, the value in the waste available in Bahrain, and that has given us something around 11.55 megajoule per kg, which is good, which is a good amount for energy production. Well, what then we try to do them more to investigate like the energy protection, and that will be equivalent to 4.67 million megawatt hour of energy protection. And of course, this is the theoretical value, the calculation. But if we want to know exactly how much we expect from a generation from a station, like incineration process, as we mentioned by Dr. Abdallah, as one of the technologies to be used is actually to incinerate the solid waste. Considering the current available technologies, we would expect something like 144 megawatt of protection. So a small size station like 30 to 40 megawatt is enough for Bahrain to utilize all the like around 300,000 tons of waste per year. Now here, Dr. Abdullah, you mentioned the thermal because, let's say heat to power. Usually when we think about it, some people, they will think and say, well, we don't use heat here. We need cooling. We don't need heat. So what should we do with the heat? We actually use heat. Most of our power stations use heat. It's a combined heat and power station. But the heat that we produce is actually utilized for desalination operation. So we do actually need the heat. We are in need of the heat as much as we need electricity. And definitely any source of heat that will provide us with the fresh water will be welcomed. The other thing which is very interesting here is the wastewater treatment facilities. We have different wastewater system facilities in Bahrain, and one of the main one, of course, Tubli, as we all know. And Tubli, of course, any waste treatment facility, the picture, by the way, that I'm showing here, this is a wastewater treatment facility at the University of Bahrain, just to mention that with this picture. It's actually here at the university. So what happens in Tubli, that they will, after the treatment of the wastewater, they will have the sludge, okay, which is, they can do nothing about it except drying it, and then it will end up in the landfill. So we still have enough, source of energy that we can use, what we call waste, we can use for energy. And one method, which is, I believe, even in the municipality now, they are talking about, and there is a lot of discussions, and there is companies in Bahrain, they are thinking of utilizing this sewage sludge in terms to get to produce either by incineration to produce energy, or there is another way we can deal with it is by using AD. AD is not something that is practiced in Bahrain at all whatsoever, and it's very limited in terms of even the activities that happens in the GCC, I would say, rather than the MENA region in general. So we established in the University of Bahrain the Biomass Research Lab. And this lab was actually done in cooperation with a UK university, which is Loughborough University, the Center of Renewable Energy System Technologies. They have one of the biggest biomass labs in UK. And we started with them in order to put this lab, the Biomass Lab. The aim and why we have this lab, because we want to introduce the AD system. AD, the anaerobic digestion system, which will help us to produce methane, is actually could be used as a process in the pre-treatment, of the treatment of the wastewater at the moment, or could be actually used for food waste or any type of organic waste, and then we can produce methane. We are doing projects, and I have put this number here, and if anyone very familiar with AD, they will go like 80%. Are you sure? We actually got this number, yet we have not published it because we need to make sure that this number we are comfortable with. Usually the 60% is the number that you will see it in the literature when they talk about the methane. We have produced the 80% using a very distinguished type of inoculums that we have produced inside these labs. So we have communicated also with certain organization here in Bahrain and trying to take their waste, especially the oil waste, and then trying to use it as a feed inside these digesters and see if we can actually use it to treat plus to produce methane. I was trying to be quick, Dr. Omar, and I hope that I have managed to hit the 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very on point and concise overview of the waste and waste to energy situation in Bahrain. which I'm sure was as enlightening to our German guests as it was to our compatriots from Bahrain. The waste system in Bahrain is not something that is there's a big literature about, either in academic discipline or even in the public, in the media. So it's very useful to hear from a local expert about exactly what's going on. Now I would like to move to our third and final speaker, who is the engineer Katharina Reh. She is a waste composition and sampling specialist and a domestic waste specialist at the Fraunhofer Institute for Environmental Safety and Energy Technology at the University of Maastricht. No, MSICHT seems to be an abbreviation in Germany. Engineer Katharina, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omar, for the kind introduction. I hope you can see my slides. Very good. Yes, and thank you also everybody for inviting me and letting me be part of this discussion today. I would like to go to the next slide. Yes, it's working now. Yes, so my name is Katharina Reh. I'm working at the Fraunhofer Umsicht Institute. I'm giving some details about that in the next slides. And I would like to take the opportunity today to talk about some insights on the development of waste management in Germany, and also some recent examples of our work in the GCC and in the MENA region, in the case projects of Kuwait and Tunisia, and to show what they are doing at the moment to improve the local waste management systems, to create ideas for Bahrain in our discussion later. So Dr. Abdallah already gave all important insights on the role of waste to energy in Germany and also the financing, and Dr. Hanan thankfully gave us insights on the situation and potentials in Bahrain, so I will not talk about that, but please allow me to start with a few words about Fraunhofer Umsicht instead, to show you where I am coming from. So Fraunhofer Umsicht is one institute of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft in Germany, which is a research organization dealing with applied research. There are more than 70 institutes in Germany dealing with various topics. And among others, there is the Institute Umsicht, where I'm working at, dealing with environmental and energy and safety technologies. We work for industrial and for public partners, and 70% of our annual finance volume is coming from projects that we conduct for these parties. So what do we do at the Umsicht? We have two departments, one dealing with the renewable energy and one dealing with the recycling management. The renewable energy department, for example, is dealing with combustion technologies or production of green fuels, for example, and the recycling management department is dealing with the development of recycling technologies and also waste management concept development. So the guiding principles of our work basically are the SDGs, which have, as you know, several direct links to the waste management, whether it's about avoiding negative effects in the climate actions, for example, or also using waste as a resource, like in the responsible productions part. So all of these aspects, avoiding negative effects and using the waste as a resource, are part of our work. So where do we come from in Germany? We come from basically a risk prevention oriented approach on the waste management in the 1900s, and developed towards nowadays a circular economy or resource management oriented approach. But still, regardless of all discussions about circular economy, the main purpose is still to avoid health and environmental risk coming from waste. So this is what has to be ensured at all times. So on this slide, you can see the treatment pathways of municipal solid waste in Germany between 1995 and 2012. So in this time span of roughly 20 years, a ban of landfilling of untreated mixed municipal solid waste was introduced in Germany. And you can see that the orange landfill share reduced over the time to now 0% of untreated or direct landfilling of municipal solid waste. And what do we do with the waste instead? You see that the recycling rate, the light green part, has increased, and also the composting rate, but also the incineration rate has increased. So everything that should not or cannot be recycled should be properly treated, and incineration is a very big part here, it plays a big role here in Germany for this aspect. The development was only possible by an increased effort in separate collection. So you can see this here on the slide that in 1990, we still had a share of municipal solid waste with roughly 90% being in the mixed waste bin. And within 20 years, up to 2010, it decreased. Only 37% are in the mixed bin, and the rest is collected as separate fractions in various bins that are used. Still, there are steps to take to increase the resource separation, to increase the quality, to increase the recycling, but this is where we are at the moment. So coming from these experiences, as Dr. Omar said, the exchange with other countries benefiting from each other's experiences is of very high importance, and therefore I would like to show you some regional examples that we are working on at the moment. So one example is a project in Kuwait. So we are honored here to conduct a very exceptional project in our view for the Environment Public Authority in Kuwait. We're working here with 9 partners from Germany, among them also University of Rostock, and 2 local partners from Kuwait. The project is divided into 3 parts. The first part is data collection and survey. As Dr. Hanan said, the identification of the relevant information on waste are crucial and is quite a challenge. So this is the first part, to really go on sites, measure, take samples and analyze the waste and also the situation at landfills in Kuwait, to understand the local situation. In the middle part that you see here, is related to the data storage and assessment. We store all the data in a GIS-based database and developed applications to evaluate the result and show them to the public authorities, to EPA, and also to the public itself. And all of these data that we collect gave us the necessary insights to develop the National Waste Management Strategy for the upcoming 20 years for Kuwait. Here we developed goals and target values, concrete target values for the country, what to be reached within 20 years, and bring these targets also into concrete action plans, showing suitable measures, showing responsible persons, showing timeframes for each of the activities necessary to reach a sustainable waste management in the future. Here also the stakeholder involvement is a very important part of the project, and also a financing and legal concept for bringing the strategy in place and implementing it in the future. Unfortunately, I cannot say something about the results yet because the project is not finalized, but I can at least tell you that it's very good approach and a very sustainable approach for Kuwait that will be reached, and I hope we can present the results soon. So let me skip the slides due to the time limits. Let me just say a few words about the project that we conduct in Tunisia, which has a different approach. This is more related to practical, small-scale implementation projects. So here we look at, let's say, low-hanging fruits and try to implement smaller activities to reach progress soon. Here we work together with two partners and one two German partners and one local partner, the ANJET, and this is funded by the state of Bavaria. And in this project, container spots will be built to collect recyclables directly from the inhabitants to increase the recycling rate. Also, a waste transfer station is planned, as well as composting plants with a state-of-the-art technology, but adapted to the local framework. And furthermore, the WEE treatment is tackled, so the waste electronic and electrical waste treatment, which is also a big problem, of course, in the MENA and also in the Gulf region. And all of this is flanked by the knowledge transfer and training activities to create also local jobs, which is a big benefit of a suitable waste management. So I would like to thank you for your interest, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Katharina, and to all the panelists again for their presentations. I'm glad to see we have a lot of questions and a lot of comments in both the chat and the Q&A. Usually our events around security in the Middle East, we're talking about nuclear bombs, and we don't get as many questions. I didn't expect the issue of waste management to attract this much attention from our guests, but I'm happy to see that. I also would like to thank Dr. Abdallah for diligently responding to numerous questions by text during the conversation. Now, given the number of questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them out, read out a selection of them. Well, actually, I'll probably read them all out, and then I'll give each panelist an opportunity to reflect upon the ones which are in their specialty and they can answer them. So we have, looking at the Q&A, the ones that have not been answered thus far. We have Muhammad al-Imam, who says, what about desalination brine? Gahtan Thabit asks, for recycling, you first need of all regulations for EPR systems, then awareness from society, and finally separated waste. And I believe he didn't finish the thought, but I assume he means waste separation. We have Nada al-Hlesi, who says, will renewable energy stop global energy sources stop global warming? That's an easy one to answer, I'm sure. And then from someone who clearly is familiar with Bahrain, Hubertus Schrager, says, Tubely expansion project includes full incineration of the sewage sludge with full energy recovery already. AD does not address the disposal of the sewage sludge, which is a problem on the small island. It only uses organics, whereas incineration will reduce all organics and thus minimize disposal. Can you please kindly elaborate on this? So this is a technical question. Eduardo Uanga says, what do you suggest we will do with all the CO2 that is produced by incineration? Is that a bad step in the wrong direction? And I should point out that incineration in COVID, we recently did a study, and Dr. Hanan was one of the interviews where we considered the effects of COVID on the environment in Bahrain. And there's been an increase in incineration for dealing with the medical PVE waste, and that's potentially a growing global concern if COVID continues to afflict the world economy. Umut Koldas, thank you very much for this well-structured, informative, inspirational panel. I have two interconnected questions. Do waste management policies and practice differ from one country to another in Germany, from one federal state, I should say, to another in Germany? And if so, what is the effective coordination mechanism? And then a follow-up question for Bahrain regarding the existing centralized structure of waste management. How can the existing system become more effective and efficient in Bahrain? And more questions. I'll stop there to give the guests an opportunity to reflect on them, and then we'll have time. We'll do another round. So I'd like to start first of all with Dr. Abdallah in the same order that we had the presentations. Dr. Abdallah, would you like to reflect on some of these questions?
I will say something. It's mean really what I can tell you, the discussion between the experts is 50% of the solution. Believe me, today, when we discuss together, we will find the solution together. We don't have the solution in our pocket. It's mean for the waste management. It's mean the discussion is very important. And really, we cannot solve all the problem, it's mean, in very short time. In Germany, we started with waste management before really 70 years. So, and the most important thing, it's me to think about the regulation. We need your regulation. The first regulation in Germany was in packaging in 1993. It means the producer should pay for the packaging. That's very easy. We need it. We need it in Bahrain and all the MENA region. So then really we have some money, and if we have the money, we will find the solution. It means the way really regulation for financing is a technical solution. That's very important to think about it. And I will come back really to the main regulation in Germany about waste management. It was really in 1993, after the extended producer responsibility, the ban of landfilling of organic material and high caloric fraction. All the material more than 6,000 kilogram cannot be landfilled in the landfill. It was very important in Germany. It means with this way, really, we stop, it means the landfill of the material. Then we establish the waste incineration, we incinerate material in the cement industry and so on. We established a composting plant and so on. If we think about really, it's mean biogas, biogas is expensive for the reason. It's mean we need money. We need money to establish such system. With only the energy, we cannot cover the money what we need. That's maybe something about my answer. It's mean we need the regulation, and we need to think about the financing of the waste management systems. Thanks, Omar.
Thank you very much. The next opportunity to reflect is Dr. Hanan.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. However, I was thinking which question I should start with. There's so many of them. But I actually wanted Dr. Abdallah to reply to the incineration, whether it is actually, and the CO2 emission and the AD and incineration debate that it actually never ends when we talk about usually the biomass energy, by the way. So this is a very common question in any discussion. People will say, well, incineration, you will have emissions. Okay, we have emissions already. We are generating power already. You are using natural resources and natural gas, oil, coal, everything to produce energy. So it's not like a process that is going to only be built or done is for the waste. It's already there, as indicated with Dr. Abdallah. So incineration is, you have to think about it as a solution, as environmental solution for waste disposal. We have to use it. I mean, and if we're going to compare it with AD, especially for the sludge, the sewage sludge, there's a big debate about it. What do you actually want as an end product? Do you want thermal process, or you want actually the methane? So that it depends on the fuel that you want at the end of the technology. So it's not like comparing in a random way. We have to say what is the available, what is the cases, what's the condition, and then you design it accordingly. I hope that I'm not aggressive in answering, because I have final exam at the moment and my students are sending me messages. So I'm just reading and trying to answer. So it's nothing personal to the person who asked the question. And the other thing about the waste coming from desalination, well, I was trying to avoid this part. Yes, there is waste, of course, coming from desalination. Some of this waste goes back to the sea, and some of this waste goes to the landfill. Okay, so unfortunately, at the moment, we have no other choices. We have to do so, and we cannot stop desalination because we have no water. So we have to use desalination, but still there is a lot of work is done and conducted, and research is happening inside the universities, research institutions, in order to improve the performance of the desalination stations and to minimize as much as possible the waste that it comes out there. And as Dr. Abdullah mentioned, there is no such a solution that we can bring now. We want you, we want every single one of you to be part of it. We want you to be a researcher. We want you to engage with us in order to be able to find solutions. This is something for sure. There was a question, remind me, Dr. Abdullah, there was something which I thought I was going to answer also. Is there anything like urgent I have to answer among the questions that I have forgot to mention? Oh yes, there was a very interesting question here. I loved it actually. When it was by some person who said that, how do you say that is 80%, and whereas all the work is happening and they are getting in the literature 60% for the methane production, and you just started, and that's why we have not published it yet. For that reason, we have now to look and go through all the components and all the factors and ensure that what you are getting is right. And this is also the benefit of research. We cannot say that this is the final number and no one should break this record. No, we are working on breaking this record. We want to improve the efficiency of what we are doing as AD. And this is the main thing of and I wouldn't say that we are totally new. We are now running the labs for around 4 years. So yes, there is a lot to be done, and 4 years is not enough for AD to get a conclusion, but we are in the process, and we hope that what we found is true. And this is the beauty of research. We are here to break the records that exists in the literature.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan. Engineer Katarina? You're still on mute.
Sorry, now it should work. Can you hear me? Yes. Good. Thank you. Yes, I also have tried to scan the questions, and I'm very happy that there are many of them. So let me try to pick a few and comment on them.
This is a record, by the way, for any Dirasat event to have this many questions and comments. So this is a success for all of you. It
is definitely. So there is one person commenting about the treatment of fumes of the waste to energy plant. So here I only can link my answer to what Dr. Abdallah Nassour already said. So the necessary regulations claiming a state of the art in treating the fumes and also stating limiting values, which will be controlled by a controlling authority, is a very important part. So only when this is functioning, a waste to energy can be installed in a suitable manner. So this is a high important prerequisite. And one option would be for the local authorities to orient on the limiting values existing already in US or in the European Union to get an idea of what would be a suitable limiting value for the country. So this would be my advice here in this aspect, because also the public needs to be included in building up a waste to energy plant, and their fears should be addressed appropriately. And the only way to do this is to give as many information also during the operation time of the plant on all emissions. We have for many plants in Germany an online web page for each plant where you can, as a private person, check the emissions and see whether they are below the threshold. So this creates a good transparency and a good situation for the public in dealing with such plants. Then we have questions from Mr. Eduardo Uranga, who asked about what is with the CO2 that is produced by the incineration. And also by the composting, which produces CO2 and methane. Here, I would say that we need to think about the alternatives that we have. So the alternative would be to landfill it in an untreated way, which will cause many more greenhouse gas related emissions than produced in the incineration and in the composting, because incineration and composting are controlled processes, whereas a landfilling is not controlled in a unsanitary landfill. So the amount of methane produced in an unsanitary landfill is much higher compared to the other processes. And in incineration, we even have no methane, and we know methane has a much more higher global warming potential than CO2. So therefore, from a climate point of view, incineration and also composting is beneficial compared to the unsanitized landfill. And the last oh no, there are two questions I would like to answer, sorry. One question regarding whether we should really go to waste to energy, because we will lose the battle compared with renewable energies, and whether we should focus more on recycling. So here I would like to stress that recycling and waste to energy are two aspects of a sustainable waste management. So of course, regarding the resource efficiency and regarding climate change, we should set one focus on the recycling and increase the recycling rate. But the other materials, the other waste parts which cannot be recycled, should be disposed in an appropriate manner, and incineration is one appropriate disposal system for such wastes. So they should be combined always. And the last question was from Professor Dr. Umut Koldas. He asked how waste management policies and practice differs in the German federal states, and what is an effective coordination mechanism. In Germany, we first of all have to look at the European regulations from the European Union. We have to implement them within a transition time into the national law. And therefore, we have a nationwide German law regarding waste management, and also regarding specific waste types like packaging waste or electronic waste, which is oriented on the European legislation. And below that, there are legislations and ways to implement these legislations on the federal state level. And to ensure that there is an exchange between the federal states in how to interpret the laws on the national level and how to proceed or to coordinate the activities in implementing these laws in the most effective manner, there are working groups from federal state members together with members of the national legislation authority, which is the environmental ministry. And these working groups meet regular on specific aspects to exchange, and this ensures that the implementation of the law on the federal state level is set up most efficiently. Of course, you will never reach the best efficiency 100%, but it's at least one way to get better and to coordinate among the federal states. So these were hopefully helpful answers from my side from selected questions that popped up for me.
We'll do a few more questions. Before that, I want to ask Dr. Hanan a question, which is, Bahrain has unique challenges, and many of the solutions that are proposed in Germany or elsewhere cannot be applied directly. Now, usually, every country has unique challenges, but the way to deal with that is that you have to have a vibrant local research community which can devise solutions, subject or suitable for the local environment. So in Bahrain, apart from extra funding, of course, we could always use extra funding. How would you assess the current research environment and what it needs in order for it to be more able to develop solutions tailored to Bahrain's specific circumstances?
Wow, Dr. Omar, this is a political question, I would say, when it comes to funding research. First of all, Well, you have two things here. First of all, you need researchers who are interested in actually working on waste. And when I say interested in working on waste, not to work on waste just to tick a box saying that we done something related to SDGs. Okay, so they have to be specialized and really dedicated to work on the waste. This is completely going to be, we know people who actually, they live their life. And Dr. Abdullah gave us an example here. He's been working on waste management for more than 30 years, Dr. Abdullah. I hope that I have not increased the years. So that's how you build an expert. And you need that. We need postgraduate studies who will actually encourage the research in waste. In terms to look at, and now the governmental sector, I want them to be very open hearts now, since I will going direct to the main point. We need data, we need information, we need collaboration. It's not a secret. It is something that we all share. We all are responsible. We all are responsible. I will repeat it. We are not going to say, well, it's the responsibility of the government and not the responsibility of the individuals. We all are responsible. And hence, we have to work together. And working together means making the data available, making the resources available. It's more than money, I would tell you, Dr. Amar. It's actually regarding having access to areas and having access to data to get the information, hence you can build upon and you can get conclusions according to this. Also, there is something extremely important and highly appreciate and thanks Dirasat for taking this initiative to raise this very important topic, that whatever action or research or discussion we have, it should be also highlighted at the decision-making level. Because we can't have just research that will end up in a drawer or end up in a Scopus. And most of the academics, this is what they're looking for, is having their work published. But it is more than that. It is really an environmental problem that we need to think about now. We are too late. I mean, too late in terms of we compare ourselves with other countries, but we're not too late to start anyway. We can start anytime. I hope I have answered the question politically.
Yes, thank you. So I have on the similar lines, I have a political question for Engineer Katharina. You mentioned in your last round of responses that you have the German regulations, the federal regulations, then you have the European regulations. You start with European regulations and go down. Now, from before COVID and certainly under COVID, there has been in all countries in the world a sort of pushback against supranational entities and regulations, and countries have been heading more towards making their own rules and adhering to their own rules and not really paying attention to rules that are above the level of the country. Have you seen this in the context of waste management or have in the waste context people are still respecting international law or international regulations?
That's an interesting question.
Because in security, unfortunately, and in economics, I as an economist in trade, it's heading the wrong direction. People just are violating trade agreements as they see fit. So I'm wondering, in the case of waste, do you see something similar?
Yeah, no, not in the European context. So here the laws and the European vision is set quite clear, and there were no discussion of changing that and going into national focus more. However, on a global perspective, at least, I think that waste is seen more and more as a resource, and I can imagine that national perspectives are getting more interesting. So when we, for example, think about the rare earths located in the electronic waste, here we already had some discussions in Europe in the recent years whether we can reduce our dependence on produced rare earths from China and other countries by receiving these resources from our own waste. But I think this is a good development because it will lead to a higher use of resources and of interesting recycling technology developments also, which can be applied to other countries later as they are developed. So I think it's a benefit for the whole world to develop the recycling capacities and the recycling technologies in this regard.
Thank you very much. And then my last question for Dr. Abdallah on this occasion, you obviously your work involves a lot of collaboration between the private sector and other entities. Building on Dr. Hanan's remark that this is something which you need to have widespread buy-in. It's not just governments or universities. How do you get a teenager who, so when you look at young people in Bahrain, they've grown up wanting to be entrepreneurs, but working in fields like tech, in fields like bio, and so these sort of high profile areas. Waste is not something which is eye-catching for a teenager. In your experience, how do you make, but it's potentially much more important than the next social media craze. How do you make, in your experience, young people excited and energetic about the private sector opportunities in waste?
So I can tell you, I estimate the potential turnover for waste management in Bahrain. So it will be really, if we start today, it will be about 1 billion euro. So that's for the reason really we need the decision maker to discuss about it. I can tell you, please all, let us start. It's mean to think about the extended producer responsibility. It's mean really, it means the government or the municipalities in Germany don't pay money for the waste. So it's mean for the packaging, the municipality don't pay the money, the producer pays the money. It's mean, and believe me, we pay this money, but it's not organized. Yeah, it's mean, again, we cannot create job without money. That's for sure. So, and really, each municipality should think with the smallest steps. I can tell you, how can you do business really also? Each city in the MENA region need today composting plant. So we need in the MENA region a lot of composting plant. And that's really my opinion for the young people, start to produce fertilizer from the bio-waste. That's possible. So, but it's mean we cannot do this business without supporting the municipalities. Again, yes, we can do research in the laboratories, but really waste, waste is the responsibility for the municipality. So it's mean, again, we need extended producer responsibility system to ensure the need financing. So, and we can create a job. Another maybe business. Really, I show the landfill yet to have. What we think about it's mean to use land, it's a landfill gas. We can create really small jobs through it. It's mean, again, we cannot create job without regulation, without regulations of financing through the government and through the municipalities. We are ready to support how we can do that. I show, it's mean really in my presentation, I show you, it's mean how we can finance today waste incineration plant. If you think today, if Bahrain think now today or today about waste incineration plant, the first question will be, who will be? What is it? Today, I can tell you, Dr. Hanan, please correct me if we saw something wrong. Today, the most municipality in the MENA region pay for the landfill of the material €5 per ton. If we think about waste to energy, I can tell you, we need 30 to 40 euro per ton. Who should pay? Yeah, that's my answer for that.
Thank you. So we have 5 minutes left. What I want to do is read out a few more questions and then give each speaker 1 to 2 minutes to close. So looking at the chat, we have from Ahmed Al-Bin Khalil, who says, questions on 2019 or 2020, an agreement between Bahrain municipality and a company for waste management. Do you have any idea how effective this one was? Also, we have a comment from Suad Khalaf, who says, how about the waste from desalination, which I think you may have covered a little bit in your response earlier. From looking at the Q&A, we have another question from Hamad Al-Imam. What is the smart city impact on such projects and how is it integrated into the Internet of Things? Mahmoud Al-Afia, what are the most barriers to segregation, waste segregation in developing countries, the most important barriers? And the desalination waste, again, the question that I mentioned earlier. And we have a question from an anonymous attendee. Any specific waste to energy projects in Bahrain or the GCC that would divert MSW from landfills to WTE plants? How about efficiently treating the fumes in such plants? And then another question from Eduardo, or another comment I should say, is composting produces methane and CO2. It takes a very long time, has a large carbon footprint. Why should we promote it? So with that, I want to go through the three speakers. You can either reflect on some of those questions if you want to answer, or just give a concluding remark. I'll start with Engineer Katarina.
Yes, thank you. I maybe can comment on the aspect regarding the composting. I think what is interesting regarding the anaerobic digestion is the production of renewable energy, right, by this process. So this is a benefit compared to the composting, definitely. But also you have to see that the process is more complex. And therefore it always has to be considered whether the technical stuff, whether the technical facilities and mainly the stuff, I think is the important aspect, can be made available in the country. And based on this, I would say a decision can be taken. But nevertheless, also composting is beneficial compared to the unsanitary landfill. So therefore, I would say it depends on the technical abilities and the staff abilities in the country, and also on the costs that the country is willing to pay for such activity. But both anaerobic digestion and of course also composting is beneficial at the end, and will also lead to a use of resources, which is very interesting, especially for countries like Bahrain, where a soil improvement is of high interest. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan.
Thanks.
Your concluding remarks.
Yes. There was something which is raised, I think, the question by Mahmoud Al-Afia regarding how the segregation can be developed, or let's say encouraged in the developing countries, and why it's not maybe already practiced. I think this this question has partly answered by both Engineering Katrina and Dr. Abdullah, where they have highlighted the cost of actually doing any process. And we here, and most of the developing countries, we're not paying enough for the waste in terms of management, in terms of the collection. We don't pay that much. Hence, no segregation, because any company that you will have and you will introduce in order to deal with the recycling and with the segregation needs, as mentioned by my colleagues here, money for that. So who actually pay for this is the person who produces the waste. Or otherwise, the country, as it's actually subsidizing everything now, needs to subsidize this part and move forward if no taxes or no extra charges need to be implemented on the individuals.
Yes, so this is one of many examples, as you said, in the Gulf, where subsidizing basic commodities leads to distorted behavior. We've seen it for many years in the case of petrol consumption. Engineer Katarina, I won't tell you how cheap petrol has been in Bahrain, because you'll probably you'll have a heart attack if you realize the price. But yeah, petrol and electricity and water have been artificially cheap for many decades and has generated highly damaging behavior. It's starting to be reversed slowly now as the subsidies are lifted. But in the case of waste, we've got a long way to go before the economic incentives are aligned with the or reflect the economic situation. And then finally, Dr. Abdallah.
Yes, I will come to that CO2 emission. If we landfill today the waste, so the estimated really CO2 from the landfill is about 1,000 kilogram per 1 ton waste. If we incinerate the waste, yeah, believe me, it means through the energy, yeah. So maybe the CO2 emission, it's mean really is lower, maybe 100. It means we'll reduce the CO2 from the landfill to the incineration, yeah, more than 90%. It means, please, and for the combusting, yeah, the same. We reduce the CO2 in compared to the landfill. And really, if you only think about CO2, then we cannot more drive cars. So if you drive cars, you produce CO2. But it means the target from the waste incineration or combusting really to reduce the CO2. Yeah. Please, if you have more question to this topic, I am ready. To answer you. I will add only the topic sludge. Sludge, believe me, sludge. The sewage sludge is very big problem, and in Europe. Until now, really we don't have the best solution. I can tell you we should think about biogas from sludge. Really, that's very good solution. But the second question, what can we do with the sludge after digestion? That's very important. And sorry, in Germany we think about incineration. But I show you why not incineration in the cement industry. For the reason, really, we need research activity. I suggest maybe to think. Dr. Hanan, maybe to think about research project to incinerate sewage sludge. Yeah, maybe in the cement industry. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, I would like to draw this session to a close. First of all, I would like to thank Ghazalo, Dr. Dalia, and our three distinguished guests, Engineer Katarina, Dr. Hanan, and Dr. Abdallah, and Shireen also from Ghazalo. I would also like to thank all of our guests who attended, and I thank those who had comments and questions, and I also apologize that we were not able to cover all of the questions, but I hope that in future events I will have the opportunity to interact. And with that, I would like to wish everybody a good day. The final remark is that for future events in Darasat, please either follow us on social media, Darasat BH, or subscribe on events at darasat.com.bh. I wish you all a happy Wednesday and hope to see you in future events. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All the best.